Let me read you a comment. How can you even compare these two? It's ridiculous. The Maker's Mark 101 is leagues ahead of the Wild Turkey 101. The ethanol just overpowers the flavours. It's a cheap tasting bourbon. Now compare Rare Breed with the Makers and you've got yourself a video. Well, it looks like we've got ourselves a video. Hello and welcome back to the channel, and yes, we do indeed have ourselves a video. Thank you to ID Tech for that comment. This is a bit lighthearted really, but I do appreciate the feedback. Their point was that they thought in my original test, heading up Maker's Mark 101 versus Wild Turkey's 101, that, well, Wild Turkey 101 was so much of a cheaper bourbon, it wasn't really a decent test. But if you watch that video all the way through, I actually said I kind of preferred the 101 from Wild Turkey, awkwardly. But anyway, we are going to do it here today. Maker's Mark 101 versus Wild Turkey's Rare Breed for what could be considered a more fair test, but I'm going to point out a few reasons why it isn't. Now, one thing people get hung up on a little bit in whiskey in general is pricing. The prices aren't always representative of the time and effort that's gone in to each product. Main reason being, obviously one big bit of it is marketing, and the second reason being is volume of sales, or volume of that particular product being made. From a pricing point of view, this does feel like a fairer shout. In the UK right now, Wild Turkey's Rare Breed is about 55 to 60 quid on average. Meanwhile, the Maker's Mark 101, 65 to 70 quid. Not massively far apart. Obviously, compare that 65 to 70 quid to Wild Turkey's 101, and you're talking of a gulf of, well, 50 quid. So yeah, you know, it's definitely not a fair comparison on the financial side of it, but this Maker's Mark 101 is also available much cheaper in some airports because it was originally a traveller's exclusive, and then it all starts to get a little bit muddled very quickly. The other reason, though, that you need to consider this not a massively fair test as well, the Maker's Mark 101 is 101 proof, or 50.5%, exactly the same as the Wild Turkey 101 is. However, the Rare Breed is not. This comes in at a whopping 116.8 proof, or 58.4%. So, okay, they're still in the 50s, but this only just, and this very much at the top end. So, yes, in terms of intensity of spirit, the Rare Breed, I'll be honest, this feels like a slaughtering waiting to happen, but we're going to find out for sure. Just before we break into them then, a quick look at the bottles. The Maker's Mark coming in with this beautiful, almost like Thor's hammer kind of thing. It's actually quite difficult to hold by the neck because the lower of it is so heavy. But yes, I've not actually had any since that test, I don't think. So this will be a nice reminder. And it's probably changed a bit in the meantime. But yes, lovely looking thing. Bougie as always from Maker's Mark with the elegantly waxed dipped top there. But yeah, solid stuff. And then Wild Turkey's Rare Breed. This is kind of old school medicine bottle style, perfectly round bottle. I know it's quite common to do like novelty shaped bottles these days, but I do just quite like the simplicity of this one. Paper label. It's basically, well, it's not having to sell itself because it is just that good. Let's get a pour in. Ah, yes. Marks down already. It's a screw top on the Maker's Mark. Bit disappointing, but it is a cork. And I spilt some on the table for good measure. In the glasses then, they are looking pretty similar. The Wild Turkey a little bit more orange hued, and the Maker's just a touch darker. There's not a great deal in it. As I move my head from side to side, I kind of changed my mind actually on which one is darker. So they're definitely very close. I've inadvertently poured a little bit more of the Wild Turkey, which, well, I'll have to just suffer the consequences and drink that after I finish filming. But yeah, they are very, very similar looking things, it has to be said. Now, because of the ABV discrepancy, I am going to be trying the Maker's Mark first on both aroma and the palate. So, ooh, a little bit jammy, a little bit apricot jam. Don't remember that from before. Still getting quite a lot of ethanol off this one, ironically. Decent little spice profile going on. Oak tannins coming through, but it's not too much. Yeah, it's kind of a spiced apricot jam vibe. I really don't remember that from the first time I tried it, but it smells very nice. It smells like it's going to be a little bit on the hotter side, a little bit less sweet perhaps, and, well, yeah, I'm not sure how that's going to develop too much, but anyway. Aroma's on. Wild Turkey's Rare Breed. I do enjoy this drop, I must say. This gets better every time, I'm pretty confident. It's rich, soft oak, vanilla, caramel, lots of traditional bourbon. There's a little bit of like peanut shell savouriness in there. It's not as ethanol forward, which given the ABV discrepancy is impressive to say the least. Of course, it has been open a bit longer. There's more out of the bottle. That could explain it. But yeah, and there's just a fine little bit of cocoa or something like that coming through on the back end. Chocolatey goodness. That's, yes. I mean, they both smell very nice. The Maker's Mark 101, for whatever reason, feels just a little bit kind of, you know, like wine cask derived. Like there's a little bit of something in there that reminds me of wine cask finished whiskies. And it isn't. It's a straight bourbon, straight up normal barrels. But yeah, there's something just a little bit acidic, a little bit tanniny, a little bit... I guess the apricot's moving towards that as well. But anyway, let's give it a go, shall we? Cheers. Okay, I think I was slightly disappointed by this the last time I tried it, or the last 2 times I tried it, but it's got that wheated softness, but loads of flavour, rich, depthy, a hint of peanut in this, incidentally, which is something I was picking up on the aroma from the Rare Breed, and that fruity note and the spice, well, it's there right on the front of the palate, but it kind of just diminishes, disintegrates, and tails off into something really quite, I've got to say, beautifully balanced. I think I've probably done this a disservice by not letting it sit for a bit, but, well, we can't just open all the bottles and let them sit forever. Sometimes you have to try things pretty much straight away, and that is what has happened with this one. But I have to say, Maker's Mark 101, with a bit of time, absolutely beautiful. Even a few leathery notes coming in there as well now, which has me worried because I feel like everything I've said about the Maker's Mark 101 are things that I love about Rare Breed. So this will be an interesting comparison. Cheers then. Wild Turkey's Rare Breed coming in at that whopping 58.4%. This should be a good one. Cheers. It's sweeter, it's bigger, it's richer, it's hotter, it's more savoury, it's more of everything. This is just an astounding bottle for that 55 to 60 quid mark, because I've paid double that for bottles that I've enjoyed just as much and been very happy with the theoretical bargain that I felt I got. It really is very special indeed. Again, similar thing. When I first opened it, I really wasn't lulled by it. I really didn't warm to it. I thought it was a bit hot and a bit spiky. And I'm starting to wonder if the same thing has happened for the commenter who inspired this whole video. Because, look, both of these are fantastic. If you're going to make me choose, and I will talk about them a bit more in a minute, we'll save that till the end, which one I'm really going to choose. But both of these have improved with time, with age, with being open, as has the 101. The Wild Turkey 101, should I say, that I originally compared the Maker's 101 to in the first place. They've both been called 101 for a reason, and the skeptic in me says that Maker's Mark named it that because Wild Turkeys did so well with that name. And look, Wild Turkey's 101 is a cheaper whiskey. It is a cheaper bottle, but I think it is one of the biggest bargains going. And if they doubled the price on that overnight, I still think the only thing stopping me saying it's kind of worth it is this, because then it gets quite close to the price. But you know what I mean? It is definitely a good price for what it is. And if yours is showing a bit hot, I think you just need to let it sit for a while and enjoy it. And yeah, because it really is full of flavour. Maybe not as full of flavour as these two right now, but the price discrepancy is huge. So where does that really leave as well? I'm going to come back to the Makers first. I know now my palate has been ruined on both sides and I won't really be able to taste anything, but let's give it another go. Yeah, I'm still getting a bit of wine cask. It's going more towards sherry cask influence. Again, it isn't the case, but it's reminding me of other whiskies that are finished with those casks. Incidentally, it's not really reminding me of the Maker's Mark 46, which is, I think, French wine oak stave finish. So anyway, but it's reminding me of other whiskies that are, and it's got that sweetness, that richness, those warming tones, but without the sharpness. And well, it's an absolute refined delight. However, the peanut shell dustings, the leathery, rich ripeness, the rawness of Wild Turkey Rare Breed. It's like a refined thing, but it would feel refined in the Wild West. It is that experience of Americana that I want in a full-bodied bourbon, and yeah, it's just so much there. This Maker's Mark, for me, I would consider sampling alongside some of my Scotch whiskies, for example. It's got that refinement, that nuance, I guess is probably the phrase. It is a more civilized drink, but if I want that proper, just, I don't know, what the rest of the world thinks of when they think of American whiskey, well, yeah, Wild Turkey's Rare Breed takes it every day. And for me, I think you've probably guessed, it's my pick of the two. There's a reason this bottle is much more empty than the Maker's Mark, and it's just because I enjoy it that much more. But it was an interesting test, and I have to agree with you. Overall, these two do feel arguably more similar, and now they've both been open for a while and allowed to get to their best, yeah, these are two you should be considering. But in the UK, given the price discrepancy and everything else, go buy Wild Turkey 101 and go buy Rare Breed as well, because those two are absolutely sublime. But if you've got a soft spot for Makers, then, well, as I say, with a bit of time open, it really is another very good bottle. So what I've learned today is that I'm winning at life because I've got two more fantastic bottles to choose from, and that really is all I've got to say about it. So as always, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. If you haven't already, subscribe if you would be so kind, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.